For more, let's bring in Art Laffer, former Reagan economist, Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, and godfather and many other things to the most successful economic policies of the 20th and the 21st centuries. He's also, by the way, author of Taxes Have Consequences, but you do span 2 centuries. You realize that, Art. For a 40-year-old man, I don't know how you did it, so it's extraordinary. But let's go into these numbers and the revisions. What gets me are these downward revisions again. We know E.J. Antoni. He's a great guy. He's put together a bar graph of these downward revisions. Folks are beginning to wonder if these numbers are cooked like you get in Mexico or China.
Yeah, you're going to show it? Yeah.
We did. We showed it already.
Oh, you
so
did
go
show
ahead.
it?
Yeah.
Well, okay, please forgive me. Yeah, the revisions are huge this month. I guess the last 2 months they revised it down a little over 100,000 jobs, which is a major revision. The one thing I'm worried about, David, is the household survey versus the establishment survey.
Right.
The household survey shows a very sharp drop in employment, and that's very worrisome. And there's another little worrisome thing, that wages, while they grew by less this month than they have over the past 6 or 7 months per month. So, wage growth is not catching up to these numbers dropping. And, that's where we are. When you talk about the deficit coming on of $1.6 trillion and more government jobs and all that, it is a disconcerting picture, but it is only 1 month. But one thing is really great today, David, the stock market this week is going to be gangbusters.
Oh, well, I know, but that's because they think that the economy is slowing.
That.
Yeah, but for the wrong reason. It's because they think the economy is slowing down, and that's what the Fed wants. They don't believe, as you and I and all supply-siders do, that you can lower inflation by increasing growth. You don't have to kill growth in order to get a good economy.
No, you don't, but I still enjoy a good stock market. I do enjoy it. It makes me smile and feel happy and all of that. The idea that interest rates will never go up again, I don't think is well-founded.
Right.
I don't know which way they're going to go, but I do think that the interest rates in the range they are now are not necessarily highs for the year and for the next decade.
Interesting.
If you remember when we took office on January 20th, 1981, the prime interest rate in this wonderful country of ours was 21.5%.
Yeah.
And I think the 10-year bond yield got over 10%. So I would not bet the whole farm on interest rates never going up again. I think that would be a mistake. They may not, but I think it would be a mistake betting against it.
Well, particularly when you have the Fed over the next 6 months, the Treasury trying to sell $1.6 trillion of bonds when the Fed is cutting back on its bonds. I mean, the only way they're going to sell that many bonds is by raising rates, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if they sell bonds, the price of the bonds goes down. And if the price of bonds go down, that means rates go up. And I think we have a very skimpy amount of bonds, relatively speaking over history, a very limited number of bonds that are long-term government bonds. So if you start doing those long-term government bonds, if they were to do that, that would send the 10-year up substantially. And, you remember Everett Dirksen, David,
Sure,
long ago and far away?
He had a great voice. Yeah.
He had a phrase. Yeah, he had a great voice. He was Jim Baker's father-in-law, and he said, $1 billion here, $1 billion there. Soon it adds up to real money.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a modern-day version of that. $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there. Sooner or later, it adds up to real money, David.
Yep. You got to factor that in.
It's amazing how we're going on the finance.
You mentioned the household, the household numbers, job numbers, and it was
very
amazing.
different.
It was 348,000. Job loss.
That's right.
Compared to the 150,000 job gain in the payroll numbers. Why is that? And are the two eventually going to merge?
Well, yeah, I think they do merge, but it takes a long time. And this type of discrepancy on a month-to-month basis is not unheard of by any means. But this is a very, very large discrepancy on this month. Yeah. I mean, 150 plus versus 340. I mean, that's 500,000 job differential between the two, which is very large even for these numbers. One is the household survey, where you ask the household how many people are employed, and then you ask the establishment employment there. And the difference can be some people hold 2, 3 jobs, right, and that can account for some of the differences in this. But it's hard to imagine that being the full difference. I think you've just got a statistical quirk here. But it may be something more serious than that, and if it is, it's quite worrisome.
Well, what's really
worrisome.
worrisome is that we have the double punch of a slowing economy and this continued sticky inflation that we have. It's the 1-2 punch. Of course, a lot of the politicians and the
Yes,
Fed chairmen,
right.
they don't see it because they don't shop every week. They have drivers. They don't have to worry about pumping gas into their own car. But Americans see it, and that's why they hate Biden. Now, you remember the great days when we turned things around, both with Reagan and Trump, by the way. You had something to do with both of those economic policies.
Yes, it's true.
Where we increased incentives by lowering taxes and lowering the regulations. That increased economic activity and everything was rolling. Is there any chance that we could do it with this Democrat president? You've worked with Democrats before, but this Democrat president, could you think that a Republican speaker could work with this president to get something like that done?
Well, I think the Republican speaker is very, very good, by the way. I'm really very impressed by him. And he's so cool, calm, collected, and looks so well put together. I think he can do a good job. It's difficult to work with this administration, and especially in an election year, because they're going to be campaigning. They're going to be doing all of that. What worries me most of all, David, is the Fed and the Fed's thought process. They think that slowing the economy down brings down inflation and brings down interest rates. That's not really true. It's just the reverse is true. If you have a bumper crop in goods and services, if you have a huge increase in goods and services and the same amount of money, the price of each of those goods and services is going to fall, not rise.
That's right.
You know, if you have a recession, a depression, a contraction of goods and services, that's when you get higher inflation. And, you know, that's where we are right now. I don't think this Fed is doing the job correctly to bring inflation under control. I just don't think they do. They really need to establish the soundness of the dollar, and they just aren't doing that.
You explain it so simply. You have the facts of the past to prove that what you explain is right in the way it works. I just don't understand why they don't get it. I mean, it amazes me that they don't get it.
Would you give me Powell's telephone number? I'll just call him up and ask him if I could come over and explain it to some of those guys in the Fed. They don't want to explain it. They don't want to believe it. Powell has to ask his staff what is good economics. Paul Volcker told his staff what was good economics.
Yeah.
It's a very different model and a very different level of competence at the Fed, and it's worrisome for sure.
Well, Americans do get it. They understand it because it's common sense, and that's something that they lack inside the Beltway. Art, wonderful to see you. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
You're a great friend, David. Thanks very much for all.